should have at least waited till there was a moment of silence at the United Center to do that. More on that in a moment. Welcome. We're back. It's the second balcony. It's Craig. It's Frank. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already on YouTube. Hit the like, share, follow us on your podcast apps, all that fun stuff. Because we don't know when we're ever recording. So at least you'll get a notification when we actually figure it out and sit here and talk hockey.
Yeah, we text like two teenage girls back and forth trying to figure out when we can get a recording in.
Yeah, it's tough being adults with adult things to do and jobs and significant others that actually like us and require attention. You know, it sucks. Not really, but you know.
No.
All right, we got to get right to it. We had a really busy week since the last time we chatted. We'll start off on the downers, so to speak. The Blackhawks lost two longtime members of their organization this week. Bob Pulford, former coach, GM, passed away on Monday. And then on Wednesday, Mr. Goalie, the legendary Glenn Hall, passed away at age, I can't remember, 94. That's awesome. To make it to 94. But, last night at the Hawks game, it was rather appropriate that the St. Louis Blues were in town when Glenn Hall passed away, as he went on and won another Vezina and made a couple Stanley Cup finals as the Blues' first expansion pick in 1967. So that was rather appropriate. Sometimes it's funny how the universe lines up. But we could start with Bob Pulford. I think Bob Pulford is a guy that is guilty by association because of his to a degree. Like
he was a loyal spear carrier,
right? I
would love for Pat Foley to do his eulogy.
I mean, he was Bill Wirtz's right-hand man and Grim Reaper, whatever you want to call it.
I like lick spittle.
Whatever adjective you want to use, they're all fitting. And as the Bill Wirtz era grew nearer to an end, it got uglier and uglier and uglier, trading away guys like Chris Chelios and Ed Belfour and Jeremy Roenick, essentially for nothing. No offense to Alex Zamnoff, who had a really nice career, but Alex Zamnoff would have had an even better career if he played on a line with a guy like Jeremy Roenick. But that was kind of the end of it. They got, that organization. I mean, we know how it all went down. But Bob Pulford, when you look at his life in hockey, it's rather remarkable.
Oh yeah, half a century in the game.
I mean, he
did do it all.
Yeah, he was a Hall of Fame winger. Won 4 Stanley Cups from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Who not many people could say that. Definitely not many left now that can say they won a Stanley Cup with the Toronto Maple Leafs, let alone 4. So there you go, kids. The Toronto Maple Leafs used to win championships, and then the league expanded, and they never did again.
They haven't even made the finals since expansion.
Technically, since expansion, they've never made it past the second round. They never won 3 rounds in a series. They've never won 3 rounds in a single postseason, because back in the original 6 days, you only had to win 2.
Right.
So they've never won that.
That's why they throw octopi in Detroit.
Right. 8 wins for a Stanley Cup. Was a penalty kill wizard, led the league in shorthanded goals many times. Pulford did, and then was the first president of the Players Association, and just a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Builder. As much as he was unliked in Chicago, especially towards the end of his time with the organization, he did draft a lot of the best players.
Oh yeah.
He drafted Dennis Savard and Troy Murray and Steve Larmer. Signed Ed Belfour as a college free agent, drafted Jeremy Roenick, and he even had his fingerprints on the Cup era, at least that first couple Stanley Cups, because he was the interim GM in, I think it was 2005, the year they drafted all the B players. So he drafted Boland and Bickle and Brouwer. So he had his fingerprints on different eras of hockey, the 80s, the 90s, and even into the Cup era, which is rather remarkable.
Yeah. And, I, but for me, I just will always think of Pat Foley. And Pat Foley would do his annual Steve Larmer rant about how Larmer should have had the Iron Man record, but because of William Wadsworth Wirtz and Robert Pulford, they didn't pay him, then they wouldn't trade him until after the season started. And,
Yeah.
we can relitigate that from now until the day the world ends, and it
Well,
doesn't matter anymore.
I will always remember Bob Pulford, Pulley, as he was called, for the way he said organization.
Oh yeah,
That will be how I'll always remember him. A 4-time GM and a 4-time Blackhawks coach. It was always like, oh, Alpu Suhonen got fired. Throw Pulley down there again.
yep, yeah. Pulley. That was the thing. Pulley probably, if if Wirtz handed him a broom, he'd start sweeping. So loyal to a fault.
Yeah, but kept him employed for decades and decades. So
Yeah.
hard to argue with that. And then Glenn Hall, much more well liked amongst Blackhawk fans than Bob Pulford. An absolute legend of the game. Just you can't say enough nice things about Glenn Hall. I never got to see him play. He retired before I was born, but
I think I might have seen him play, but I honestly don't. I know my dad took me to a game at the end of the 66-67 season when they were winning what was the Prince of Wales trophy then, I think it was. And so my guess is, yeah, Hall was probably in that.
Yeah.
That night.
That was his last season with the Hawks. And the Hawks, of course, they got him here from the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings traded Terry Sawchuk to the Boston Bruins so Glenn Hall can be their next goalie. And then after 2 seasons, it wasn't working out for Sawchuk in Boston, and they reacquired him. And at the time, traded a relatively unknown forward named Johnny Busick to the Boston Bruins for Terry Sawchuk, which then required them to trade Glenn Hall and Ted Lindsay to the Blackhawks. It was Ted Lindsay's end of his career, and he was starting the whole union thing, and it wasn't very popular.
Right.
But
well, that was the thing. Lindsay was starting the union, and at the time, sending a player to Chicago was like sending someone to Siberia.
Yeah.
Not understanding that down in St. Catharines, you had Bobby Hull and Stan Mikita and Pierre Palat and Moose Vasco and all these other guys ready to come up and turn them into a cup winner. But yeah, and Hull was a throw-in. The Hawks needed a goalie, and they, Detroit had Sawchuk.
Looking back on that, I think the Red Wings probably should have kept Hall and Busick. Imagine having Johnny Busick in his prime with Gordie Howe and Delvecchio and Lindsay and all those guys. It would have been the Red Wings and Canadians in this Cup final for about 7 years in a row, and it would have been amazing. But oh well, the Blackhawks and the Bruins benefited from that. Not that Terry Sawchuk was bad when they got him back. He still went and played a long time. He was in goal for the Red Wings in the 1961 Stanley Cup final, where Glenn Hall won technically his second Stanley Cup. He was put on the cup in 1952 with the Red Wings because he was called up and was their backup for the playoffs. Never played, but they still put his name on it. So he was the first player to ever have his name engraved on the Stanley Cup before actually playing an NHL game.
Yep. And the other thing about Hall, and for you youngsters who don't understand this, back in the day, the Vezina Trophy was a statistical award given to the goaltender or goaltenders on the team that had the lowest goals against average, which is now the Jennings Trophy.
Right. Actually, I believe it was just fewest goals back then, and the Jennings is the goals against average. I think they changed it a little bit, but it's same difference.
But now the Vezina Trophy is basically best goalie in the league, and Glenn Hall was a first-team All-Star 7 different times, which no other goaltender has ever done. So if they had given out the Vezina then the way they give it out now, Glenn Hall would have been sitting on 7 Vezinas, and basically any discussion of greatest goalie of all time, the conversation starts with Glenn Hall.
Oh, he's Mr. Goalie. You don't get called
Yeah.
Mr. Goalie for being okay.
Right.
I mean, he was a 7-time, set the record. Nobody's been a 7-time first-time All-Star at that position since. And he did it when there were 6 goalies.
Yeah.
I mean, Jacques Plante and Terry Sawchuk and Johnny Bowers were in the league at that point. Like, these are Hall of Fame goalies, and he was considered the best out of all.
We will not erase Gump Worsley in this house.
Gump Worsley, yes, exactly. Minnesota North Stars legend, Gump Worsley.
I think the Hawks are about the only team he didn't play for.
But yeah, Glenn Hall, he, of course, 502 consecutive games played. Now, when we say consecutive games, he played every second of 502 straight games as a goalie without a mask. That,
the only time he wasn't playing was if he got pulled when the Hawks were behind.
Right. That extra attacker, or, 10 seconds off for, delayed penalties, stuff like that.
Right.
I posted on, I wrote about Glenn Hall and his legacy on blackhawkup.com today. And I put in the highlight. My favorite Glenn Hall highlight of all time was where he actually picked up assist getting off the ice while he was playing with the St. Louis Blues. He was heading to the bench on a delayed penalty, and the puck kind of came to him, and he skated it up through the neutral zone and passed it off to Terry Crisp, who scored a goal.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to read what I have to say, I get it. At least go check it out and give me the click to see that highlight. It's worth your time.
He was so durable that there were years where the Blackhawks didn't have a technical backup goalie. It wasn't like there was a goalie sitting on the bench.
Right.
Well, I mean, there was, but what it was Gunzo. Gunzo was the backup goalie, and he was there to be ready just in case. They had nobody else.
Yeah.
Gunzo was the equipment manager, but they figured, well, we got Glenn Hall. We don't really need to pay another goaltender, in typical. Well, that might have been. That was probably during the Wirtz. When did Arthur Wirtz buy the Hawks? I don't even remember.
I think that was definitely the Arthur Wirtz era.
The Baron of the bottom line.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they had Gunzo as their backup goalie. And then later on, they went out and got Dennis DeJordy and had an actual backup goaltender.
Yeah. So 502 games, 1961 Stanley Cup. Went 8-4 in that postseason. 2 shutouts. Shut out the Montreal Canadiens in back-to-back games 5 and 6 in the semifinals to get to the Stanley Cup final. Blackhawks beat the Red Wings in 6. The only 2 games he lost in that series, the Blackhawks scored 1 goal in each of those games. So if you can't hang it on him, he won, and then was left unprotected after the 1967 season for the expansion draft because the Blackhawks were under the impression that he was going to retire. And so they were just like, okay, we'll just let you go. And then the Blues were like, hey, we're going to pick you. We know you kind of want to retire, but here's a whole bunch of money. You want to come play? And he's like, yes, sir, I do. I just,
the first year or two, the Blues goaltending tandem was Glenn Hall and Jacques Plante.
And Jacques Plante came in the second year, but yeah, So they had a season of those 2 guys with a tandem, and they led the league with 13 shutouts between the 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the Blues went to the Stanley Cup final that first year. Was it 3 straight years?
They went 3 straight years.
Yeah.
Well, again,
it was
for all you youngsters out there. When expansion happened, the original 6 teams were in one division, and the expansion teams were the other division. So every year there was going to be an expansion team in the final, and it just happened to be the Blues. The Blues, they had
because they had really good team, a
Yeah.
lot of Hall of Famers at the end of their career, but they put it together.
Yeah.
And
Al Arbor was one of their defensemen. Scotty Bowman was their coach.
Yeah, a young Scotty Bowman before his glory days, but he got his, cut his teeth there. Didn't they have who was the longtime Rangers defenseman? Didn't they have
Doug
Harvey? Yeah,
Yeah,
did
Doug
Harvey
Harvey
play for the Blues?
Yeah.
But that first year, 1967, the Blues get to the Stanley Cup final, and everybody expects them to just get trounced by the Montreal Canadiens, and the Canadiens sweep them. but it was 4 1-goal games, and Glenn Hall wins the Conn Smythe as the playoffs' most valuable player, despite getting swept out of the Stanley Cup final, which is and then of course towards the end of his career, Glenn Hall was the goalie that gave up the famous Bobby Orr flying goal that won the Boston Bruins the Stanley Cup in 1971.
Yeah. And Glenn Hall, there's so many great Glenn Hall stories. We could sit here all night, and there's a documentary called Mr. Goalie. It's not available on streaming yet. At some point it will be. If you see it in the theater, go see it. I've seen some clips, and it's really, really good and really fun and interesting, because Glenn Hall was a character. Goalies are all characters. So he hated practicing, especially because, being the Chicago Blackhawks goaltender meant during practice, you had Hull and Mikita slapping shots at you with blades that weren't regulated.
Yeah.
So, he didn't want to take his own life into his hands. So he would say, I'm painting the barn. I have to paint my barn. That was his excuse for getting out of training camp. And he famously vomited before every game.
And then drank a glass of orange juice.
Then drank a glass of orange juice.
But just all the acid right there is making me ugh.
Hey,
it worked.
It got him through 502 straight games.
It got him a Stanley Cup. It got him into the Hall of Fame. It got his number raised at the United Center.
And I didn't really have time to do any digging today, but I believe he was the last of the 61 Hawks.
He was. We talked to Harvey Wittenberg last night. If you check it out on YouTube through CHGO Sports, Harvey talked about that, and I didn't realize that until he said it. And that's sad, because that was that was a team my parents talked about, especially my dad, for so long, because my dad was, I think, 14 or 15 that year. So, we all have that team that, as growing up, that got us to fall in love with the game. For me, it was the 92 Blackhawks that made it to the Stanley Cup final. I just remember going to the Chicago Stadium the first time. And of course, ironically enough, we always sat in the second balcony because, those were the best seats, and it's pretty much all my dad could afford. But you go there as a kid, and you're just on sensory overload. Everything is gigantic. The scoreboard is amazing. The organ is just rattling literally through your bones.
Yeah.
And you sit up top up in the second balcony, and your eyes are drawn to these banners, and you see all these years and all these accomplishments, and then you look and you see Glenn Hall, and as a kid, 7 or 8 years old, you're just like, wow, I've heard the name, my dad's talked about him, but he's got his own banner here. He must have been something special. And then you learn, and you check out a book at the library, you read up on him, and then you realize how great he really was, and an even better person on all accounts. I never got the luxury of meeting him or getting to talk to him. I did get the chance to interview Tony Esposito a couple years before he passed away, and that was a highlight of my life. Such a great guy. But nobody's ever told a bad story about Glenn Hall. And I think that's what makes his legacy even better, because he was a great hockey player, but an even better human being.
And if you want to find out more about the 61 Hawks, there's a documentary called The Forgotten Champs. I have it on DVD because I'm a Luddite who still has DVDs. But I don't know if I doubt it's streaming anywhere. Somebody probably uploaded it to YouTube or something like that. I can't imagine it being too hard to find. But yeah, it's called The Forgotten Champs. It's the story of the 61 Hawks, and it's definitely worth checking out, because you'll hear names that you might have never heard before. Like, I already mentioned guys like Moose Vasco and Ed Litzenberg, and just all these great players that played on those teams. Dollars Saint Laurent, I think, was on that team. Another character. So
that team had some personality, no doubt about that.
Yeah. And speaking of personality, I know you were working last night, but did you get a chance to see the clips of our young Connor Bedard after the first period?
Connor Bedard definitely keeps receipts.
Oh yeah,
no doubt about that. Yes, with the he remembers the whole pond hockey
Oh yeah.
quote from A1 meathead Paul Bissonnette. I mean, I'm not a fan of Paul Bissonnette. The problem, my issue with Paul Bissonnette is when he actually just sits there and analyzes the game, he does a really good job. Like he
Yeah.
knows the X's and O's. But then when he just does the whole frat boy meathead thing, that's when I click. I
Well,
can't take it.
he wants to be
And
the
I'm
new Don Cherry.
well, yeah, well, okay, fine. Then do that in Canada.
Yeah.
Like I just don't understand how a guy can be on a national broadcast and just be a blatant Maple Leafs homer. I didn't think that was a thing, but he's popular. I'm not in his target demo. It's fine. I'm good with it. But anyway, yeah, Connor Bedard, really good interview if you check it out. I believe TNT's NHL and TNT's X account clipped the whole interview. You might be able to find that on YouTube too. But
Yeah, it's on Instagram also.
yeah, Connor Bedard could be back tomorrow. It's sounding like it. We'll find out in the morning, maybe Saturday. I
I
don't
would
know.
think Saturday would probably be a better idea. You really want to bring a guy back from a banged up shoulder and have him play a back to back?
Sure, I agree with that, but bringing him out on a Friday night home game wearing the black jerseys is a little tempting too.
Yeah.
But we
I'm
got to act.
just take a moment and just think about the first power play the Hawks get, and you've got Bedard in the left circle, and you've got Artis in the right circle.
I mean, we hopefully got a lot of years to enjoy that.
Yeah, but that's just gonna be nightmare fuel for goalies.
Yeah, I mean, as long as, and then you got a guy like Tavo or Oliver Moore out there who can actually get them the puck.
Yeah,
That pass Oliver Moore made on Nick Lardis's goal last night was
that was beauty.
That made me quote Archer, sploosh. That was
Well, and
quite arousing of a pass.
I mean, it's been a blessing in disguise, Bedard getting hurt, because I mean when he first went out, I mean the Hawks were atrocious, but they're starting to kind of pull it together now. And one of the big changes is Jeff Blashill putting Oliver Moore at center,
Mm-hmm.
and you could just see how much more comfortable Moore is out there, and Moore and Lardis are just starting to click. And this is what you were hoping for, was for guys to start stepping up. And you didn't want to have to be Ryan Donato and Jason Dickinson. You wanted some of these younger guys to start showing up and getting more confidence, making more things happen. The fact that there were 7 goals by 7 different guys last night, and Bertuzzi didn't have any of them.
Yeah.
So
well, he should have.
Yeah, he got the one waved off, which
and then
wasn't great.
Then he got the early shower, but
yeah,
when it's 6-2 or 7-2, whatever it was at the time, you don't get angry at
that. But yeah, I mean, Nick Lardis is clearly looking happy and comfortable playing in the NHL, and I don't know if they've given out the letters yet to anybody, like to Moore or to Lardis, basically saying, okay, you can move out of the hotel now.
Yeah, I mean, at first, with when Lardis was called up, I figured they're just going to let him come up and play until Bedard's back, and then send him back. But there's no reason to send him down now. He's been great. He's been great on the power play. He's been your best shootout guy. He's playing well. He's got a much more well-rounded game than I thought. He's not just I'm just going to stand here and shoot the puck all day. He's somewhat responsible defensively. He's willing to engage in board battles. He's not a floater. He's not a perimeter guy. I've been really impressed with what he's been able to do, and him and Moore have been great. Moore down the middle has been a real nice find. Jeff Blashill has said that it allows him to use his speed better.
Hmm.
because he could see the ice better and he can kind of slow it down and then speed it up. Or when you're on the wing, you're kind of just going full blast up the ice at all times. Um, Now at center, he can kind of navigate, find the holes, then hit it, and he just and he's no slouch defensively either. We saw that
No.
play against St. Louis where Braden Shen had a wide open net and the puck was laying there, and he got his stick, lifted his stick to prevent a goal. And he's holding his own faceoff wise too.
Yeah.
So
All of a sudden, it looks like the Hawks have three centers.
four centers. I don't take Ryan Green out of the middle either. He's been
I
terrific.
know. Well,
He's been terrific.
I feel bad for Ryan Green. Ryan Green. I feel bad for Landon Slaggert because when Bedard comes back and then when Nazar comes back, those are probably the guys going back to the Beefaroo.
I don't think it's Ryan Green. Jeff
Unless
Blashill loves Ryan Green.
well, or there'll be a trade between here and there, a bigger trade than we had today.
Yeah, more on that in a moment. Yeah, I could totally see Sam Lafferty getting waived. Just to clear that out. He's not going to get back in the lineup. But I don't want to jinx anything, but these things always seem to have a way of working out where Nazar comes back right as somebody else gets banged up. Jason Dickinson gets another ouchie or somebody else gets hurt and needs to miss a few games. It's hockey. That happens. So, but having, 5 or 6 legit centers, it's a problem every head coach wishes he had.
Yeah. And going back, we should talk about the trade because you already talked about possibly waiving Lafferty, and this trade kind of had me thinking about that also, which is today the Blackhawks made a big trade, definitely deepened the blue line a lot.
Putting the San Jose Sharks over the top for a playoff spot this year. Yeah, in case you missed it this afternoon while I was taking a rare afternoon nap, the Blackhawks traded goaltender Laurent Brossoit, defenseman Nolan Allen, a 2028 7th-round pick to the San Jose Sharks for the contract of defenseman Ryan Ellis, AHL defenseman Jake Furlong, and a 4th-round pick in 2028.
Yeah, so having Ellis and Shea Weber on the blue line is really going to help. That's going to give them a veteran presence.
They were former teammates in Nashville. The funny part is those two guys are the highest paid Blackhawks on the roster right now.
Yeah, and but because they took on Ellis's contract, that gives them the flexibility to waive Lafferty if they want to.
And it also helps because he's under contract for next year as well. So that helps him get to the cap floor next season, which they're going to need because,
there's going to be a lot of guys on ELCs.
Right. I mean, Murphy, Dickinson, Foligno, those guys are likely gone. Most, I'd be shocked if any of those guys are back. Mikheyev, kind of 50-50. Scott Powers talked about how the Blackhawks might be looking to give him a 1 or 2 year deal if he's willing to take it, but we'll see how that market shapes up for him. So you're going to be taking those guys who are making $4 to $5 million a year and replace them with guys making $925,000. You got to make up that space somehow, and you're not going to go out and sign 3 or 4 free agents because A, you're blocking guys on the roster, and B, this free agency class is going to be dog shit because all the good players have already re-signed. There's nobody out there.
Yeah, at some point they're going to give Bedard his extension, and his extension will replace Weber's money.
And Nazar's new contract kicks in next year, so that will help too. But you still need to make up some money because as of now, according to our friends over at Puckpedia, the Blackhawks have about 52 when you include the Seth Jones retention. They have about $55 million of cap space going into next season.
Yeah, and figure 12 of that goes to Connor Bedard.
Right. So put them at, 67, 68 million heading into the season. So the cap is going to go up. The floor right now is 70 million. but I believe that will be going up too, since the ceiling is going up as well.
Yeah, the cap is 16 million higher than the floor.
Right. So if it goes up to, what are they saying next year? Like 95? Well, here we go. Puckpedia has it. So, well, bottom line is they got a lot of space to take up. It's going up to 95.5. So the that puts the floor at just under $80 million. So
Yeah.
even with the Bedard and Ryan Ellis, they still got some money to spend.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see how that shakes out. Nolan Allen getting traded, not a surprise, really. I mean, he had kind of gotten passed up by too many guys.
Yeah.
Jake Furlong can take his place in Rockford. He's a 21-year-old former 5th-round pick back in 2022. 6'1" left-handed defenseman. So
he's another stay-at-home guy.
It's basically, getting a slightly smaller version of Nolan Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And it just gives Nolan Allen a chance to go play for a team that doesn't have such a deep, young defensive core. He actually could have a chance to play in the NHL this year with that team.
Yeah, I think so. And in Rockford, he wasn't even the top dog in Rockford because he was behind Rinzel and Korchinski. Now Rinzel and Korchinski they're not skating together in Rockford, right?
No, they are on separate lines.
Yeah, because I know Nightingale likes to have a veteran and a young guy together on the defense, but I would love to see those two guys skate together. Just because the way the Blackhawks are shaping up right now, Levshinov and Kaiser are doing so well together. You don't want to break those two up. And, Vlasic's been really, really good again this year. Crevier, if you can get some chemistry going between Rinzel and Korchinski, you got your 6th defenseman for next year.
Yeah. We'll see how. Yeah, I mean, Crevier is a guy that I like him. I mean, listen, he's exceeded all expectations from when he was drafted in the 7th round and spent a full season in Indy. But there are times when I'm like, wow, that's a really nice play, and then there are times like, can you just hit that guy already, please? The same with Vlasic. Like, it's like there are some moments where they're just like, well, we're really big, and that's all we have to do. You just have to stand here and be really big. Sometimes you got to lean into a guy. You got to knock a guy down.
Well, and here's the thing he's dealing with. And we talked earlier about how Crevier, for a while, he was losing his man because he was chasing hits. And I'm sure if we saw it, then Blashill and his staff saw it. And they probably said, okay, you got to see where the puck is before you go around looking to lay the lumber. But now I think he's kind of holding back a little bit because he doesn't want to be out of position when he goes for the hit. So he'll find that sweet spot, hopefully. I mean, you'd love to have him turn into Brent Seabrook, who he knew exactly when to lay guys out.
Yeah. Well, the one thing about Crevier,
Seabrook would also give you that little uppercut.
Yeah. He walked that line, and he towed it quite well. One thing about Crevier that I've been really impressed is his offensive game. He is not afraid to shoot the puck, especially with Connor Bedard out. That's what they needed. But he gets around the net. He's got smooth hands. I mean, they used him in the shootout the other day, and he almost that was the Caps game, I believe.
Yeah. That went 6 rounds,
and beat Canadian Olympic goalie Logan Thompson to the glove slide, just flipped it over the net. It was a really nice move. So, hey, Team Canada, they're going to have to win a lot of games 7-6 in that mini rink over in Italy if it's done. As someone who is going to be rooting for Team USA, I'm all for Jordan Binnington being your number 1 goalie. Um,
And
Hawks and
did you happen to see today that there is another Blackhawk going to the Olympics?
yeah, Adam Guyan, another
Adam
goalie.
Gajan, Team
He's going to
Slovakia.
go, for Slovakia, and I believe he just played in the Spangler Cup as part of that
He did.
U.S. college team. They bring
Yeah.
college kids, so that's why he was Team USA because he's playing at Minnesota Duluth. So
Yeah, because I was wondering, he played the Spangler Cup instead of World Junior, which I thought was an interesting choice.
well, he's too old for World Junior. He's 20.
He aged out. Okay,
Yeah,
then that explains it. I thought he was still. I thought he
because
was still 19.
he played 2 years ago when Bedard embarrassed him with that goal against Slovakia, if you remember that.
Yeah, well, Bedard just owned that tournament.
Yeah. Adam Guyan is he is. Oh, that's how many games he's played. That's not his. He's actually 21. Yeah, he was.
Oh, okay.
He'll be 22 in
He's
May.
aged
So
out. Okay.
yeah, he was a late college guy because he played 2 or 3 years in the USHL before going to college.
And I actually wonder if he's having such a good year at Duluth. I wonder if he's going to want to go pro.
I don't know. Goalies are different. I mean, he's had one really good year in college after a really poor year in college. So maybe do it 2 years in a row before take that next step, because you could go to Rockford and who knows what that net is like next season. Is Comezzo still down there, or do they, find a place for Soderblom in the off season so Comezzo can be Knight's backup? They're really high on Brezhnoy. They like him a lot. He's been good. So they may tell him, hey, hold off another year, go play in college, get that college weight training and all that stuff. And then
Minnesota Duluth is about as good a place as you could have a college player play.
Absolutely. So let him go there. 21 for a goaltender is still infancy stages of his career. Yeah. And then you say, hey, next year, Drew Comezzo will be in the NHL or on another team, whatever, and you'll be our number one guy in Rockford.
Yeah. And, at that point also, Connor Knight signed what, a 3-year extension?
Yes, 3 years that kicks in next year. So,
Spencer Knight.
Spencer Knight. Yeah, whatever. They're all Connors.
Yeah. Connor Nazar.
Yeah.
Connor Foligno.
It might actually be one of his son's names. I don't know.
Who knows? Goes back to the Hockey Night days when CT would slip a Donald into every recap.
Well, that was back in the day when the Blackhawks had 52 Brandons or in the system. Now it's Connors.
But since we talked about the World Juniors a little bit, we do have some young crankable hogs to talk about there. I think the 3 guys the Hawks had all did well. They AJ Spellacy, it was his last tournament, and he did about what you want AJ Spellacy to do. He's not there to be a top line goal scorer, but he looks like he could be a guy. You put him on the third line. He's a guy who's definitely going to lay some lumber because that's his game and he knows it. And hopefully we've already said, hopefully he could be your less dickish version of Tom Wilson. And
that'd be great.
And Frondell won best forward in the tournament. He will definitely be. I would be shocked if next season he is anywhere other than on Connor Bedard's left wing. And Václav Nestrasil he had a really nice tournament, and that was his first one. He'll be back next year. I'll be very surprised if he goes pro.
Yeah, there's no reason to rush that.
Yeah, he needs to. He's still a beanpole. Let him bulk up. This year this summer he can spend some time with the Hawks training staff. And get him on a better regimen to bulk up a little bit, because that's what they did with Oliver Moore. They do that with Nestrassel. Nestrassel puts on 15, 20 pounds, and all of a sudden he's a serious problem in this league.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to gain 15, 20 pounds real quick, just have him spend the summer at my house. I'll get him. It won't be that healthy weight, but he can turn it into muscle. I got a Portillo's right down the street. I'll get him fattened up real quick.
Hey, man, the war on saturated fats is over.
Yeah, exactly. Bring it on.
So, yeah, I mean, the things are looking bright. And, if we're going to crank hogs, and I think we should, the one hog who deserves some cranking this week is Gavin Hayes.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's finding a game. Now, I don't know if it's because there's nobody left in Rockford, so he's getting a lot more opportunities.
Well, he's been on the first line since Lardis, no Lardis, no more. He's been up there.
Yeah.
And he's taken advantage of it. He's got a couple of 2-goal games in the last few games. He's been scoring. He's been getting assists. I mean, it's good that he's been a disappointment his first 2 pro seasons. And that's not necessarily his fault. Like last season, he dealt with injuries.
Yeah, he was hurt,
and it was a start and stop kind of season. But he played well in the postseason and down the stretch run, and he carried that over. He's a guy that I don't think is necessarily in the long-term plans, but he's playing himself back into a discussion to at least come back for another season in Rockford.
Yeah, and maybe, that might be his lot. His lot might be that he's an AHL lifer, which, beats being an ECHL lifer.
Yeah, there's worse jobs you can have. You can play professional hockey for a long time and make some money. I used to joke with some of those guys when I was covering the AHL. I'm like, hey, playing in the AHL for 15 years is a lot better than writing about players in the AHL for 15 years.
Well, over the holidays, my wife and I, we drove up to New Jersey, drove back, and on our way back, we stopped overnight in Florence, South Carolina. And, Florence, South Carolina is, I guess, it's on I-95, and it is part of the PD region of South Carolina, named after the PD Native tribe. And we passed by some little arena, and it said, home to the PD Ice Cats. And my wife was driving, so I'm like Googling PD Ice Cats on my phone. Turns out they are in the FPHL, which is the Federal Prospects Hockey League, which is one rung below the ECHL. And I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. Federal League, Slapshot, that's great. And but then I looked at some of the names of the other teams, and I don't buy hockey sweaters anymore. If I did, the FPHL has the Athens, Georgia Rock Lobsters.
Nice.
Nice. I still might have to get a Rock Lobsters t-shirt to wear to the gym.
Was that the same league that once had a team in Macon, Georgia called the Macon Whoopies?
It might be. They have 2 divisions. They've got a division that's like the Southern teams, and then they've got one that's like they have like the Empire division that's like upstate New York and Pennsylvania, and like Binghamton has a team, things like that. But yes, they have the Athens Rock Lobsters, they have the Baton Rouge Zydeco's, just great names.
Yeah.
So if there's anybody listening from the FPHL, then I'd love to get a shirt.
There you go. It is a weird league. I'm looking at it right now. You got the Continental League, which is
the Continental League that's the Southern team.
Yeah, they got Biloxi, Monroe, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Athens, and then you got the Empire League, which is upstate New York, Danbury, Connecticut. You have a team in Indiana, and you have a team in Topeka.
Yeah, those are some long bus rides. Those boys ain't flying.
Yeah. No, though that's brutal.
Yeah, it's just like, I live in Orlando, which is an ECHL town. Well, I don't live in Orlando, but you guys anyone who listens, you know where I live. I'm near Orlando, and the ECHL is here, the Orlando Solar Bears. And we're actually going to be going to a game in March, I think. You can go to Costco and you can buy tickets at Costco for the
Nice.
Orlando Solar Bears. Um, but they do the same thing with the ECHL. So, like the Indy Fuel is never coming to Orlando.
Yeah, they kind of stick to their own. I mean, they barely play any interconference, interdivisional games in the AHL. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they only play like two or three. The Ice Hogs will only play like two or three Eastern Conference teams, and they only play two or three teams from the Pacific Division. And essentially, 90% of their schedule is just within the division. I mean, that league has money compared to
Oh yeah.
some of those lower leagues. So yeah, it's tough
Although the Solar Bears are owned by the DeVos family, they have money to burn.
to tax write off.
Yeah.
Um,
What it is they wanted to have something there because, although the arena was the Amway Center, now it's the Kia Center. So Kia has the cars. They have the naming rights to the arena now, and the DeVos family. I mean, their moneymaker there is the Magic and then concerts. But
right.
still, you got to have an arena. It's a 20,000 seat arena sitting right off of I-4 in downtown Orlando. You can't have it dark that many nights. So throw the ECHL in there. They have a curtain that they bring around to close off the 300 level, and they'll get the ECHL is a good draw in Florida because you've got the Florida Everblades, you've got a team in Jacksonville, you've got the Solar Bears. There might be a couple other teams in the ECHL, but yeah, people like me who moved from the north and want to go to a hockey game. If I want to go see the Lightning play, that's a 2-hour drive each way. If
Yeah.
I-4 isn't a nightmare.
Are they Solar Bears still the Maple Leafs affiliate?
Lightning.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Yeah, they try to. I know with the AHL, they try to keep the affiliates close to the parent teams, although
They try to, yeah.
they try to. The Wolves change affiliation every 2 years.
Well, the Wolves don't want to be an affiliate of anybody. They want to be an independent team so they can just bring back the same veterans over and over
Right.
like they did in the IHL days. I mean,
Yeah.
they pretty much put the IHL out of business by those contracts they were given in those first few years. The guys like Al Secord and,
Yeah.
Paying Steve Maltese all that money. But yeah, but most teams are now, I think there's only 4 or 5 AHL teams that are still independently owned. Most of them are owned by their parent club. I mean, the Ice Hogs were independently owned just until a couple of years ago, but the Blackhawks buy them, and then lo and behold, all of a sudden the BMO Center is getting a facelift and getting a well-needed renovation. So, they try to keep it close.
And the Blackhawks bought the Steel too.
Technically, they didn't. The Wirtz company bought the Steel.
Right, because otherwise
an
there'd be a
NHL
conflict
team.
of interest.
Yeah, an NHL team can't
own a junior team.
Yeah, but speaking of that, I'm glad you brought that up. We got to take a look into the new expansion of the Fifth Third Arena, which will be opening by the end of the month. Well, and it won't be called the Fifth Third Arena anymore. It's going to be rebranded as the Blackhawks Ice Center, presented by Fifth Third Bank. But they're just about done with construction there. So Jamie Faulkner gave the media members a quick little tour after practice the other day. And it is absolutely beautiful what they did. They have 2 more rinks over there. One of them is a 2,000 seat USG arena, which will be the home for the Chicago Steel starting next season. They'll be hosting the Tom Curvers Classic there. With the Blues and the Wild prospects, where they're just going to truck those poor kids that have to take the bus to Chicago. They're just going to get run over by Anton Frondel and AJ Spellacy and all those guys. Roman Kantsarov, he might play and score 40 goals in 2 nights. Should be fun.
Yeah.
But the facility is great. They move the entrance, and it's just this great they got like a brick wall with the Blackhawks logo on it. This giant staircase that goes up to the Rockies bar. It's going to be a full service 7 days a week restaurant that's going to be available. They have new parent lounges, and it's really good. And now when that's done, they're going to kind of go to the original part of the facility and renovate that a little bit as well over the next year or so to kind of get that up to par. But man, they did a great job there. The outdoor patio on the second floor is great. You've got great view of the skyline from up there. Awesome stuff. I can't wait till that gets fully open. People are really going to enjoy that. And they expanded the parking lot, which makes me happy because there are some days, especially during training camp, where you show up, or if the Hawks have a Saturday practice and there's a tournament going on, you got to park like 4 blocks away. So more parking is great.
Yeah. The one other thing we should probably talk about before we wrap up is the latest Always an Original dropped.
Yeah, the banner years.
Years. And, again, going every so often, I do drop into my hockey night story mode. After the Hawks won the Cup in 2015, we did a piece called The Magnificent Seven about the 7 players who played on all 3 Cup teams. And we had, of course, our requisite Photoshop and everything. And it was nice to see that rather than just run through a highlight package, they focused on those 7 guys. And they did talk about how the teams were built through the draft and things like that. And I thought Corey Crawford did an excellent job narrating it.
Yeah, I watched it about halfway through before it dawned on me whose voice that was. I was like, I know that voice. I can't quite picture it because I missed the part in the beginning where it said who he was. That would have been
It didn't say it
helpful,
in the beginning.
Oh, it was at the end. Yeah.
It's at the end.
But yeah, it took me a while before I was like, oh my God, that's Corey Crawford.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, is that Crawford? Is that Crawford? And then they're talking about the draft. It's like, oh, and they drafted a pretty good goaltender named Corey Crawford. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Fucking right, Chicago.
I love Corey Crawford. He's one of my all-time favorite Blackhawks.
Oh yeah, and I loved when they had the 2015 rally in Soldier Field, and they told him not to do it, and as soon as he came out, and he just looked at John McDonough, had this big smile on his face, and I was like, yeah, you told me not to do it. Fuck you, I'm doing it.
Yeah, I mean, and that wasn't even the worst thing said at that championship rally.
No.
Somebody warned us that something bad was going to be coming that off season, and we should have listened to them.
Yep.
But yeah, that they did a really good job. I appreciated more of, as you said, the backstory. Where those guys, how they came here, and how it built towards what it became. Did a really good job. All 3 of them have been. All 3 of the documentaries have been fantastic so far. I'm looking forward to, I believe, January 17th. They're going to have a bunch of the guys there. Yeah. And of course, January 19th, I believe, is that Jonathan Taves.
That is Jonathan Taves' return.
With the basement dwelling Winnipeg Jets. Maybe they'll win a game before then. I hope not.
Yeah, so they're going to get Gavin McKenna, or it might be Ivan Stenberg.
There you go. I think Gavin McKenna has played himself out of the number 1 pick. And I'm not saying like he was bad. He had 14 points at the World Juniors, but you take away the Denmark game and there's not as many points there. And some of those were when they were winning 6-1, 6-2 in the third period. And I think Gavin McKenna is a tremendous offensive player, but when he doesn't have the puck, there's a lot to be desired there.
Yeah. And, of course, now the Hawks are on this heater, so they've played themselves out of the top of the draft at the moment. Things can, as things can change very quickly. But yeah, watching Stenberg and Frondell skate together, is like, this could look pretty cool in red.
I would be all about that, but yeah, they're with this heater they're on, and the Blackhawks gonna get their their guys back, their top two centers back here. Connor Bedard, maybe as early as this weekend. And Frank Nazar is probably another 2 weeks behind, but you're going to get them both back before the Olympic break. You know, who knows? I know a guy they're kind of high on, maybe depending on where they're going to go, is Tynan Lawrence, who's going to BU. So depending on where they draft, that's a guy that they I know they're high on. They've got a relationship going. I think they got to know him a bit scouting Nestersil in Muskegon, and now he's going to go to BU where there's Sasha Boisvert sitting there, so they got another reason to keep in touch. So that's a guy that I would think makes sense for the Blackhawks in that first round if they're in that 4 to 7 range.
Yeah, and another name that I keep seeing floated around with the Hawks is Adam Novotny from the Czech team, and he looked good too.
Yeah,
so I wouldn't be mad about that.
Yeah, it all depends on where they pick.
Where the picks land, because they have 2 picks at the moment,
right?
So it depends on where those picks land.
Right, and Novotny could be a guy that may be better for that second pick, depending on where it is. But now the Panthers are getting their act together, and Matthew Tkachuk is coming back here. So yeah, that's not going to be a lottery pick.
No, it's not going to be a lottery pick, and you know damn well that when the first game of the playoffs comes, they're going to be hitting on all cylinders. They're going to have the entire roster back, and I mean everybody.
Yeah, I mean Barkov has started skating on his own already, so it's amazing how fast these guys heal.
Yeah, if somebody told me Barkov was Wolverine, I wouldn't doubt it for a second. So, but yeah, we got Washington Friday, we got Nashville Saturday
night, same time the Bears and Packers playoff game is going on, so nobody will be watching that game.
Nobody's going to be watching the Hawks,
including me, because I have to go to a family engagement party that night. So
I am going. Well, every year when we go to New Jersey, my wife's sister and her husband are so unbelievably generous. Not only do they put us up for however many days we're there, but one of the ritual gifts each year is they buy us tickets to a Broadway show and dinner, and the 4 of us go and enjoy the show. Now, my wife and I like live theater, so we have a thing down here called Broadway in Orlando. There's one big building called the Dr. Phillips Center in downtown Orlando, and that's where you go for everything. So we go there for Broadway in Orlando. We were there for John Mulaney. We when there's I bought my wife tickets to see Ali Wong. It's all there. And we get a slate of 8 shows. And the next show coming up is called And Juliet. And we happen to be talking, we do this. And we just saw The Outsiders, and that was really good. Now we're going to go see And Juliet. And they didn't say anything. And then when we got to open up our Christmas gifts, in the box was a printout of And Juliet. So we wound up seeing And Juliet on Broadway. And it was great. It was really, really good. We loved it. So we're thinking, well, if we don't like it, we'll sell the tickets after the show. Okay, we'll keep the tickets because we really enjoyed this. And Joey Fatone is in it.
Right.
So,
the fat one.
The fat one. You gotta. When there's an NSYNC dude coming to your town, you gotta go.
After all these years, he's still selling tickets. Good for him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's from the area too.
Yeah.
At one point, he had a restaurant in the Florida Mall, which, by the way, the Florida Mall has I think America. I don't know if it's America or the world's last operating Sears store.
Mm.
So, if you want your Kenmore appliances, come on down to Orlando.
Yeah. Free delivery.
Yeah. So that is it until next time.
Yeah, we started talking about Glenn Hall and we ended with a Sears reference. So that's full circle. If we're ever going to get there.
Yeah. In case you weren't sure this was a Chicago podcast, it certainly is.
So. Absolutely. We talked about Portillo's. We talked about Kenmore Appliances and Sears. Yes,
Yeah.
we've hit all the staples. All right.
All right.
We will Frank and I will text back and forth dozens of times to figure out when we'll be able to record again. Maybe as quickly as Sunday. Wasn't that the original plan?
That works.
Sure. Why not? Let's tick off another one. We'll have a couple of games to talk about. Maybe some roster moves, some hogs to crank.
Yeah.
But until then, we appreciate everybody hanging out in the second balcony with us. Don't forget to tell all your friends, share, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Wave to Frank's cat as we sign off.
Yeah, and play us out, Al.
Take us home, buddy. Here we go. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.